people say, hey, I have a retirement account. Well, the important question is, what kind is it? There are two major groups of retirement accounts. There are individual retirement accounts, IRAs, and there are employer plans. Just keep in mind the I in IRA stands for individual. Employer plans include 401ks, 403bs, 457s, deferred comp plans, and some others we won't get into here. Okay, if you pull your money out, usually it's before 59 and a half, you pay a 10% penalty. However, there are exceptions if it's an IRA. The three exceptions are higher education expenses, first-time home buyer, and health insurance if unemployed. All right, so let's start with a higher education expense. It applies to qualified education expenses paid for the taxpayer, their spouse, or any child, including foster child or grandchild of the taxpayer or spouse. The student does not need to be claimed as the taxpayer's dependent. The qualified education expenses are for enrollment or attendance at an eligible educational institution, include tuition, fees, books, supplies, equipment, and special needs services. Room and board also qualify if the student is enrolled at least half-time in a degree or certificate program limited to the school's cost of attendance allowance or actual campus housing costs. If they're getting scholarships, veteran benefits, that sort of thing, except for gifts and inheritance, it'll reduce the amount that can be pulled out without the penalty. First-time home buyer. Now, this is a little bit of a misnomer because it doesn't necessarily mean it's your first house. I'll talk about more about that in a minute. But the maximum amount that you can pull out to support first-time home buyers is $10,000 over your lifetime. So if you've done this before, you can't use the whole 10,000. So distribution must be used within 120 days to buy, build, or rebuild a first home for yourself, your spouse, or any child, grandchild, parent, or other ancestor of you or your spouse. The individual for whom the home is being acquired must have not owned a principal residence during the 2-year period ending on the date of acquisition. Health insurance exception. This exception applies if you've received unemployment compensation paid under any federal or state program for 12 consecutive weeks. The distribution must be made during the year you receive the unemployment compensation or the following year. You must take the distribution no later than 60 days after you've got a new job. Okay, we just got through talking about things that only apply to IRAs. Now we're going to talk about things that only apply to employer plans. My favorite one is the age 55 separation exemption. So if you leave your job in the year you turn 55 or later, you can get at your employer plan monies without paying the 10% penalty. But make sure it is covered in your plan. The plan has to have been written for that. If you are a public safety employee or private sector firefighter, it applies at the earlier of either age 50 or after 25 years of service, whichever comes first. So if you started working in this job at age 20, you could theoretically do it as soon as age 45. If you're getting a divorce and there is a quadro known as a qualified distribution, I forget what it stands for. Basically, it's a quadro, not subject to the 10% penalty. And there's a new thing called pension-linked savings accounts. You don't get any tax deduction when you put the money in, so withdrawals, generally speaking, are tax-free, generally. Okay, so we've been through the stuff that only applies to IRAs. We've been through the stuff that only applies to employer plans. Now, the longer list is the things that apply to both IRAs and employer plans. If somebody dies and leaves behind an account to another, there is no 10% penalty for withdrawals. Disability. If the owner of the account is totally and permanently disabled, They don't have to pay the 10% penalty. If their spouse is disabled, if they don't own the account, they don't get it. Substantially equal payments, which I'll refer to as the 72T. Okay, this one is a tricky one, and I generally don't recommend it because it can be easily mishandled and subject you to serious penalties. You've got to use, you can do penalty-free withdrawals at any age, provided the account owner follows one of the IRS-approved calculation methods and maintains the payment schedule for the longer of 5 years or until age 59 and a half. What that means is if you start at age 50, you got to go to 59 and a half. If you start at 56, you got to go to 61. And if you make even a minor error or a premature modification prior to that ending, it can retroactively trigger penalties on all prior distributions plus interest. Make sure you have professional guidance, preferably somebody who's done it a lot before and knows what they're doing. Medical expenses. When they exceed 7.5% of adjusted gross income, the exception applies. You don't have to itemize in this case to take advantage of this exception. If the IRS levy is actually applied to your account, and this is not a threat to levy, but it's an actual levy, you can take out the amount equal to the levy without penalty. If you're an active reservist, you may qualify for an exemption. If kids are being born or you're adopting children, it's $5,000 per parent per child, whether it's born or adopted. Those with a terminal illness may qualify for an exemption. If you're in the middle of a federal disaster area, it's limited to $22,000 per disaster. Victims of domestic abuse may qualify for a limited exception. And lastly, the emergency expense deduction distribution may qualify for an exception. Keep in mind, all of these will have the applicable income taxes applied, and extreme care should be used when exercising any of these options. If done incorrectly, the penalties may appear. Okay, a few final thoughts. Keep in mind the purpose of your retirement account, because one day you're going to want money to live on without having to go to work. The appropriate taxes, even if you don't pay the penalties, the tax bill will still come due. And anytime you take money out, the future growth of these funds will be sacrificed. So if you end up pulling the funds out, even for good reason, those funds are not going to grow over the years and decades unless you're replenishing them. And the importance of professional advice. As you can see, this is very complicated. To avoid the 10% penalty requires precise knowledge, planning, and often expert guidance to prevent costly mistakes. Once you graduate, be it from welding school, engineering school, or law school, you're going to need a different plan for each of these stages that's tailored to your individual situation. During your working years, in my opinion, the most important questions are, am I saving enough and is it in the right place? Because the sooner you start saving, the better off you'll be, generally speaking. When you get on that glide path to retirement, which I've defined arbitrarily as the last 10 years prior to retirement, will the USS Retirement be shipshape on the appointed day? For retirement, how do I avoid running out of money before I run out of life? Avoiding tapping those accounts is a good start if you can. And legacy, does what I worked hard for get to where I want it to after I'm done with retirement? It can be reached at herwirefinancial.com. I do in-person, Zoom, and phone appointments. I am licensed and registered across several states and can easily add states if there's a need. If you'd like to schedule an appointment, you can click on the Schedule an Appointment button in the upper right-hand corner of my website. Want to see more videos like this? Go to my website and click on the YouTube channel button. It's that red one between LinkedIn and Facebook buttons. If you want more information, you can follow me on Facebook, LinkedIn, or Twitter. Please like and subscribe to my YouTube channel. For those who prefer the good old-fashioned telephone, 518-631-2569. Caution, Do not send texts, as will both be said, because I won't get them. There's a separate number there for texting. Opinions voiced in this material are for general information only, not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual. All performance reference is historical. No guarantee of future results. All indices are unmanaged and may not be invested in directly. All data is believed to be from reliable sources. However, no representation is made as to its completeness or accuracy. None of this is to be construed as tax or legal advice. Consult your advisor prior to taking any action. The information is intended to be educational, not tailored to the investment needs of any specific investor. All investing involves risk, including loss of principal. No strategy assures success or protects against loss. There is no guarantee that a diversified portfolio will enhance overall returns or outperform a non-diversified portfolio. Diversification does not protect against market risk. Okay, everybody, have a great weekend. I'll see you next time.